everyone, and welcome to the Star Wars: The Old Republic Q&A panel, hosted by MMORPG.com. My name is Michael Bitton. I'm the community manager over at MMORPG.com. We know you guys are itching to ask these guys some great questions about the game. We're just going to get the ball rolling with one or two questions, and then jump right into the Q&A and some brief introductions. Let's start with introductions first. This is James Olin, the game director on Star Wars: The Old Republic. James, of course, has been with BioWare for a long time, going all the way back to the original Baldur's Gate. So I think the game's in good hands. Next, we have Corey Butler. He's the live producer on the game. This guy needs no real introduction, but we've got Daniel Erickson, the lead writer on Star Wars: The Old Republic, and Daniel will absolutely answer all of your questions. Right, Daniel? If for some reason Daniel is unable or unwilling to answer your questions, he might placate you by showing you his abs. And finally, we have the conductor himself, Stephen Reed, community manager on Star Wars. All right, at this time we'd like to ask you guys, if you have questions, please begin lining up at the mic there with Garrett. We'd also like to ask that you please keep your questions short and to the point. Please limit yourself to a single question as a courtesy to fans waiting patiently behind you. All right, well, let's get started with the quick question. So, everyone has their own expectations for Star Wars: The Old Republic. What were your expectations when you came onto the project? So, James.
What were my expectations?
Yeah, what were your expectations for the project when you started out?
Way back in the, it was, I don't know, it was my first, this is my first time working on a massive multiplayer role-playing game, so I didn't expect it to be quite as vast a game as it turned out being, so my expectations were, I guess, exceeded. I just expected that it was going to be a very challenging game, because BioWare's never made an MMO before, and it's such the scope of the game that we come up with was so big, so.
I think he expected it to be easier. In the sense of that.
Corey, you want to?
Yeah, well, today's my first day at BioWare. So.
Wow, weird first day.
Yeah, really, I was, been a Star Wars fan my entire life, been a BioWare fan. I was really excited to be on the project, and I couldn't wait to shoot lightning from my hands and kill things with lightsabers.
That's the normal day in the office, right?
That's the fan expectation. That's what I expected.
From a writing perspective, I really, really thought it was going to be easier. The complications that come when you try to do BioWare interactive storytelling, which I've been a lead designer, I've been a producer, I've seen a lot of different types of games. It is the most complicated design challenge in gaming, and then you want to do it with thousands of people. There was without the learning that we had from all the other games, without the tools, without the grad prints, a lot of this I can't imagine ever having been possible.
I've only been on the project for almost coming up on a year, so I haven't been there for the entire time. I think my expectations were, I don't know what my expectations were. I mean, I knew the studio was big, I knew the project was going to be huge. I remember famously saying to, well, famously in my own mind, to friends of mine before I came on the project, I was like, yeah, I know the community is big, but it just means that it's if the average community has, say, 1% crazy, then we'll have 1% crazy. It'll just be a larger number of people in that 1%. I didn't quite realize how big that is. So scale was the thing that was always something that was surprising to me. I mean, I guess my expectations were that I was going to get to work on an amazing and high anticipated product, which is true. And I work with some of the best names in the industry at BioWare, and that's absolutely true. Everybody there is really smart, so you have to be on your game pretty much all the time.
I would have loved to have had the I am so disappointed in this project.
Yes.
All right, thanks guys for coming, and thanks all of you for coming. Let's get right into the Q&A. Starting with you, sir. First question.
Hi guys, how you doing? Okay.
Is my comment?
Love that mic. Get right up on it.
There you go.
How you doing guys? Obviously, 2 of the 3 of the cinematic trailers, you have Shatil Shan, who is Senator Vascula. And also I saw in a trailer one of the flashpoints mentioned something about Revan. Aside from the planet of Terrace, how much of the original KOTOR series, such as of characters, is being involved in this game?
I think that was on mine. So if people didn't hear it, how much of the original KOTOR influenced the game? So what we did is we went through KOTOR 1 and 2, and we kind of collected the question marks. So we didn't take every, random character. There's no wrap-up of the life of Girl on 2 Fingers. But all of the big questions that were floating out there, we wanted to sort of go ahead and put to bed. All the things that people wondered, not just the connections between the 2 games, but major characters who made major moves. Anyone who looked like they were doing something big and historical, you're going to at least get a note in there that shows you where that went and what happened.
And some stuff from KOTOR 2. How's that going?
I said KOTOR.
Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. I'm spacing out.
My question's regarding the PvP. You guys have talked a lot about the PvE and a lot about the war zones, covered just about everything, but it seems like it's really shied away from the open world PvP. And I think we established this morning that you guys are going to have player bounty hunting ready for launch. I appreciate that. But the
no, we didn't actually.
I
We said the opposite of that.
So we're trying. But for the PvP on the servers, on the PvP servers, is it safe to say that if you're running around on the planet and you see a rebel scum, you can kill him at any point, right?
Well, at any point, there are many parts of the world that are dangerous. So there are parts of the world that, however, that are safe. So we have marked the very beginning of the game is safe, like your origin worlds are safe, and the worlds, your capital worlds for your faction are safe, because if you're on Roman Cause, it's not like you're going to have a Republic player running around the capital world of the Empire. So you're safe in the early going, and then once you get further into the game, you come across worlds where both factions are present. And on those worlds, yes, it can get very dangerous if you're on a PvP server. We put some game mechanics in place so that you can't constantly be ganked. We actually have one of the issues that we have that other MMOs don't have is because we're telling this epic story, class story, we don't want someone basically sitting there stopping you from being able to continue your story. So we've changed, we have some mechanics in the death system that allow that to be avoided. But it can be pretty fun. We've already had some ganking going on PvP servers. I've been ganked a whole bunch of times. Mostly like Dallas, you guys probably know everything.
Yeah, a little bit more on that. There are sanctuaries in the game where you cannot fight. They are extremely rare and tend to be places that are, extremely plot driven. The promenade on Arshgab, where it's the biggest shopping center in the world, and the Huts police it. You can't turn it into a giant bloodbath. Dart down an alley. It's not true anymore.
Thank you.
Guys, David Morris. My question is around item modifications. We understand that there are going to be item modifications, but we haven't got a lot of detail up until now. Is there anything that you can share with us about what the system is going to be like, which items can be modified, how those item modifications will manifest themselves?
Actually, the item modification system is going through a modification right now. So we had it in several of our builds, and we're getting some testing feedback on it. And it was pretty popular, but it was a little bit confusing for players. So we did some modifications. We did some changes to it, and we unveiled that. Some of the players who are in here who have been playing with the current build, you might be a little bit worried because it seems like there's not much content for it, but that's just because we haven't finished putting all the changes into the game. So the mod system as it currently stands, what we are looking to release with, you're going to be able to modify a very large percentage of your items. In fact, all the high-end items, almost all the high-end items, are going to be modifiable. So you'll be able to find a blaster, say at level 20, and you'll be able to put in new mods and basically make that blaster better as you continue adventuring along. Now, one of the cool things about the mod system is it actually allows you to keep certain items with you for as long as you want to, as long as you continue finding mods to improve that item. So, for example, if you're a Jedi Knight and you find a Jedi Knight robe, say at level 15, that you really like because it resembles, say, Obi-Wan's robe from the movies, and you don't want to get the super armored Jedi Knight armor because you feel that, that's not iconic for me. Or what you can do is you continue finding mods and mod that Jedi Knight robe, and you can continue adventuring with that as long as you want. So that's also going to lead to a lot of, we feel, a lot of diversity at the very high levels, because players will be able to pick out their favorite items, their favorite look, essentially, and mod that look so that it's actually a usable item at high levels.
So an individual in operation can be holding level 15 items still be competitive.
Pardon?
A person with level 15 item can be in an operation, and that item is still making him competitive in the operation.
Well, if he gets the proper mods for it, which is going to be difficult. I shouldn't go into too much detail because we're still doing balance like that for the mod system because it's a pretty complicated system. So in the next couple months before we release, we might change a few more things about it. So that's all I'm going to say on the mod system.
Thank you very much.
That's a good question.
I was just wondering if there was going to be any kind of dual specialization in any of the classes, especially since there's PvP and real between the two of those, between like PvP and just regular like PvE. Sorry.
You mean the ability to switch between
Yeah.
two?
Yeah,
the
between
question is,
two
can
different
you dual
ones,
spec?
or dual specialization.
Oh, so you mean basically a system where you're able to easily switch out all of your items and abilities?
Yeah.
Currently, for ship, we're not going to have that. So we have a whole bunch of different specializations. Your class, you have your advanced class, and then with your advanced class, you can specialize into 3 different, essentially trees within that advanced class. Though we're trying to make every single specialization viable in PvP now, that's actually not possible. But we're going to try as hard as we can there. So some people are going to find, once the game goes live and we have millions of players playing, some players are obviously going to figure out that some builds are better than others. And eventually we'll probably want to introduce a system like the one you're saying, where you're able to easily, say, switch between your favorite PvE spec and your favorite PvP spec. But we feel that that's not something we need for launch, so it's not going to be a thing.
Thank you.
Hey guys, I don't want to ask a question that you guys can't answer, but I was just curious if you'd be able to talk about whether porting the game over to Mac is a definite no, or if sometime that may happen, or if right now it's not in the works, or if you guys can just think on that.
I'm going to be a Steve Jobs show right now. I'm a Mac fan, so I'd love to see a Mac version of the game.
Yeah, there's no, there are no plans. There is nothing in the works.
I know there's someone inside Apple who's a big fan of the game and says he's going to try and make sure it works well on the boot camp. It's not a guarantee, but there is someone there.
Level 1, is there going to be a taxi to travel to other starting planets? So you could group with your other level 1 friends?
So at level 1, is there anything that stops you from getting on the shuttle when you're under?
Actually, we're currently not at level 1, but you can actually, within a few levels, so probably within, if you're a fast player, within like 30 to 40 minutes, you can get to a level where you can actually essentially grab a shuttle to another origin world and eventually with friends. Now the thing is, we haven't built, it's possible, and we've added a little bit of content to the other worlds, but one of the differences between Star Wars Old Republic and other MMOs is that our origin worlds are very much tailored towards the classes that start there. So it would be, because the bounty hunter and the Imperial agents on how to have a story that's very much about their origin there. it doesn't really make sense for a Sith to be able to come there and do those quests. So you can join your friend, you can help him out on the quest, you can help him kill stuff and get loot, but you're not going to be involved in the story elements there. Except for one single story that we added to the world for that particular instance, because there's not going to be a ton of people who we think that are going to do that, but if you do decide to do that, you do have one quest specifically for your type of player style.
Thank you.
Hi, regarding Alderaan and the conflict on Alderaan, I read that the Republic is backing the Organa family and the Empire another family. What do you have in store to make the Empire feel like they're not going to inevitably lose that?
Well, there are some things there are a few places that you can sort of see the march of history, and a lot of it is about where you are right now and what's happening in the conflict right now. Unfortunately, we're pretty sure that this Sith Empire is not going to be here in 3,000 years.
Yeah.
So one of the things that's interesting is watching the amalgamation. So watching which parts of the Sith are going to end up influencing history, what parts are going to change the politics, are going to change different worlds. So at this moment, Alderaan's one of those that you go, you know what? I think they're probably going back to the Republic at some point.
In the party system for later quests, and you have, say, a bounty hunter and a Sith Inquisitor, how is the quest going to change for if it's a bounty hunter specific quest, but you're in a party?
If it's a bounty hunter specific quest?
Like it's a bounty hunter specific quest, but you're in a party with a Sith Inquisitor. How will that change?
So you can go with him, and you can hang out, you can fight, you can help him, do the stuff. You can get experience points as a Sith Inquisitor, but you can actually watch his story. We've actually got some cool stuff going with that now. So you can actually be there, but you cannot affect his story.
You can't interact at all with him?
Yeah, no, you can't, when Yoda says, Luke, you must train to be a Jedi, you can't jump in there as on and be like, who wants to be a Jedi? That's lame. You win the role, he never gets trained. So yeah, there's a ton of multiplayer content. That's the vast majority of it. But for your class stuff, you can come along, but you can't mess with it.
You can't grieve someone's class story.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to say, first off, I'm debating, I love it. The question is there still plans for the legacy system, or is that no longer part of the game? Or is
Never heard of that. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, we've actually, in fact, never announced anything called that. Honestly.
Other devs may have said things.
Yeah, there was a dev who said, who talked about something, but we retconned his interview. So that wasn't me. It actually was. Let's go be historical. That was the one slip of the entire project that was not James Olin. So, yeah, so no news yet.
Before you said there's going to be 15 flashpoints, how many are going to be Alliance, Republic, and how many are Endgame for 15?
So how are the 15 flashpoints going to be divided between Imperial and Republic?
Yep.
A lot of them are actually shared. Let's see. Is it the majority?
Yeah, that's a hard one. It's about, it comes down to about 4.
There's about 4% that are unique.
Yeah, so there's about a dozen. And when we say shared, so what the ones that are shared, you have a totally different storyline going into it. Like, so everyone you talk to, all your actual quest content, obviously you're never going to get that quest where somebody's trying to get the Sith Warrior or a Jedi a quest. But yeah, you end up with the same stuff. And then, I don't know how many of them are at the end game.
Well, arguably they're all in end game, because you can do
Come with the level
it.
I don't know how many got, I know at least 2.
I'm just trying to remember which ones.
Yeah.
We have other content that
Yeah, there are other ones that may or may not make the cut, or might be coming very shortly after.
2 plus.
Alright. I don't know how true well, I saw a site where they have the skill trees already done, and I don't know how true that is, but Smuggler class has I think think a max of 130 damage within 3 seconds or something. And that's very relatively low compared to everybody else who has a 100
Is everybody else want me to do what I'm about to do? We don't comment on leaks, thank you very much. Skill trees are changing, they change really regularly. I'm on the emails where the combat team talk about how they've changed the skill trees. So anything you may have seen on a site that may exist is probably out of date by now.
Yeah, there are also some horrifically funny bugs that have popped up in random times during the day. There have been bugs, in fact, where one class, let's say their skills never went up by level. So when you're level 40, you're doing the same damage with that one particular power as you were at level 1. These are things we're shipping. Don't be too worried about class balance, because that's something that is going to be continuing onwards until we launch, and then actually after launch. And actually, in regards to your smuggler, we actually have telemetry where we measure the popularity of different classes, and then figure out which class is not so popular in terms of when players are dropping it. So the smuggler class was actually one of the classes we identified as needing some love. So we went in there and we've given them a lot of love. So I think for the smuggler fans out there, the new build is going to be more exciting than the previous build.
There's an interesting perception thing going on. Like sometimes we get people on the forums who will swear up and down that the class that they're playing or whatever is the weakest in the game or whatever else. And
we know the truth.
Yeah,
the class that beat me is OP.
I think this is a key thing, and I was excited about it when I joined the project because having been on other MMOs before, it can be a never-ending nightmare where people just will tell you that no, I know that my class is the worst in the game. And the good thing is we have amazing metrics and amazing telemetry and data on this stuff. And Gail loves his numbers. So I can just go to him and go, is this true? And he looks at the numbers and he goes, nope. Now, the difficult thing for people to, deal with there is that, the numbers don't lie. So we'll tell you that, hey, the numbers say that, unfortunately you're incorrect. And then you just have to deal with it in terms of understanding that we're not lying to you. If a class is overpowered, we're going to know about it probably before the people who tend to lurk in the forums and go, no, that class, no, my class is totally normal. It's not OP in any way. So we'll be able to ferret those guys out hopefully before they make themselves known.
Hopefully this is something you guys can answer. It's one of the hot button topics on the forums right now, which you guys probably know, is about the pure DPS classes, and some people think that they're kind of at a disadvantage for when dual specking does come out, since they'll only be able to DPS and be able to switch to like tanking or healing. Like just for instance, for like the Marauder, will their DPS skill trees perform differently in different instances, where like maybe a Carnage Marauder will be better for one, or an Annihilation Marauder better for the other, to kind of make that a little bit better, the fact that they can only DPS.
So that was I'm gonna have to say we're gonna have to address that way down the road. That was a question about whether or not, if we theoretically in the future had dual specking, if the dual specking would be adjusted in the DPS class trees in order to make a straight DPS advanced class usable in multiple situations. I think that one's that's too far down the moral hole for us to even be able to talk about. Like if we get into dual specking, we're gonna have a long, hard look at the whole system.
Well, if I could change the question a little bit, will the different DPS skill trees be really different from each other and how they perform?
Right now they are. Right now there's definitely situations that they're better for, but again, so much change before launch.
Mic up, now it's too low. Look. Now we got a jaw look at her.
Thank you. I'm not that short. Alright, is romance a problem with the Jedi Knight?
Yeah, so this is one we the question really early because, all right, so if you're gonna play a game that's got choices, those choices actually have to be hard. They have to mean something. And if you're gonna go light side, you have to be tested. The same way, if you're dark side, we tend to put in quests that are really dark side that test people. Like I know the quests that will actually make people stop and start playing light side. So I want to do that. And the same way on the light side, we had to put things there that were tempting. And we've seen very, very well in the prequels that you sort of go in cultural cycles with the Jedi, and there are definitely cycles where they are very anti any sort of romantic attachment, and they see it as a weakness. In fact, a huge amount of the Jedi who have fallen because of this. So in our game, yeah, romance is a slippery slope to the dark side. So you have to decide between 3 different real big pulls in our game that make it very interesting. 1, the social pressure of your companions, what they're telling you they think is the right thing. 2, the morality system built in the game, which is the light side, dark side, that you might not agree with. And then 3, your own ethics and ideas, and how you want to actually act in the game. And yeah, so if you want to be a pure Jedi, you're gonna have to give some things up.
Good question.
Hey guys, Jeff with Forward.com. I was wondering what you guys could possibly tell us about racial or special specific abilities, unique abilities per species, and if we're ever going to get any information about race and class combination.
I deleted a post from Gary about that very subject.
I was gonna say, can we talk about these?
No.
How about we won't talk about the abilities themselves. We can talk about the philosophy behind it, which is they're not going to be impacting how you build your character. They're more kind of flavor. So what we didn't want to have happen is, for example, the Twi'lek is the best. If you want to be a DPS in PvP, you got to pick a Twi'lek because that'd be terrible. So we've made sure to avoid that. So you don't actually have, when you're picking your species, you can really pick your species just because you think that's a cool species, and you'll still be able to be any class, and you can be a tank or DPS or be into PvP or PvE or be a good at operations. It doesn't really limit you in that regard.
And are we going to hear any information soon about the race and class combination?
Yeah, we finally finished those fights, and we have a final list. And I believe we've done very, very few. And Stephen can give that to you whenever he deems appropriate.
Well, we give you one. We give you the one that you lost. Because it makes me sad, because I've been saying it for the last year. You will be able to be a Sith Pureblood Inquisitor.
We went the whole way, which means like we took it back to art, and they did the slave tattoos, and they did the whole thing, and it actually looks pretty damn cool coming in there. So it works.
Thank you.
Long time to see, guys.
I was kind of curious. Right now, the way it's laid out, you guys have elected to use a static UI. It's kind of like a border around your game. Do you have any plans to be able to move the chat frame, the raid frames, skill bars?
Right? You can't use you can't move the chat frame. And actually, you can't move the raid. You can move the operations frame.
You can't break it up, or there are some. I'm not going to mention other games, but a little bit more customization to the UI. Are there any plans to make it a little bit more robust than it is now?
We do have plans for when those get in. Is the question. So it's right now we've made sure to build the game so that it's balanced for the interface that's going to be shipping with. We have some customization. It's limited, but it is one of the areas we know fans are very, very excited about. It's one of our, we have a list of kind of the top things we need to deal with, and that is one of the top issues. We hear about it a lot. We know that people are very passionate about it. So don't worry.
One more thing.
Objective PvP, do you consider it the end game, and is it going to be more than what you offer currently, being alone?
Objective PvP, like perhaps
territorial conquest, you know, the PvP, I don't know how much I'm allowed to talk about.
Oh yeah, so yeah, we're not talking about film yet, but we will have more information on that, hopefully.
Did you see the awesome video earlier?
Yes.
So there's cool stuff on there.
Thank you guys.
Hey guys, AWOL from TGN. I had a question regarding concern that YouTubers have. I want to do a lot of PvP commentary, HUDball commentary, and I have hopes that SWTOR will become an esport possibly if PvP gets to that level. So I'm going to be doing a lot of commentary. My question is, observer modes, stuff like that for PvP, how are we going to be able to properly observe PvP in HUDball, open world, so that we can do decent commentary without having like an extra dead man on the field recording? Would there be like some sort of ghost camera option where we can check stuff out in order to do proper commentary, like you get in something like StarCraft 2 with like a replay system? What are your guys' ideas on that, and what do you have planned as far as that's concerned?
For ship, not enough. But however, what you bring up here, Gabe Angelo, who's the guy who's up at PvP, he's very interested in that kind of stuff, and it is something that, especially if PvP is very popular, which I think it's going to be, then yeah, we're going to be expanding on it for sure, and that is one of the things that can really make or break PvP systems.
So you had plans, not upon launch, but you had plans to work on some stuff at a later time? Is that what?
We have lots of plans. Bullshit, but
okay, go to camera, please. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Hi, guys. At this point, we're going to take a tiny break and pose some questions to the panel, then we'll circle back to you guys. You guys mentioned the item modification system earlier in game testing. What's some of the most eye-opening feedback you received in game testing, and how you guys acted on it?
Actually, the item mod system is. I didn't realize how popular that system was until we messed with it. Then we got feedback, basically very passionate feedback on the mod system. So we actually we've done some changes to simplify it, and we went back on those. We kept a lot of the other changes we had to make it more understandable. But the reaction to the changes we did to the mod system, we actually took a few steps backwards after the feedback was both from internal players, well, that's it, from players.
Corey, can you speak on how you guys can facilitate feedback post-launch?
Yeah, it's good. The system is going to be pretty much the same. We're going to continue to test the game and upcoming aspects of the game as it pans out. And continue to do the feedback loop that we do now. It's important to us to find out what you guys are doing in the game and what you want to see more of, or what's not working, and we definitely look at all those numbers.
I think mine's probably got the biggest list for the you're wrong from feedback and testers. My job on the project is to defend the integrity of the world, the story, make everything work as well as it can. So let's see, what's my list? You shouldn't be able to customize your companion characters. Wrong. You shouldn't be able to repeat flashpoints. Wrong. There was a lot of them that we went in with very set. Like we erred definitely on the side of let's make the world sell and be right and be what it is. The same way we would go into any other BioWare game, and very quickly learned that you've really got to walk the line between making sure it still makes sense, but giving players the tools and the customization and the ability to express themselves and do crazy things in game, because that's where a huge amount of the passion for the MMOs are. Oh, I have that comment on this until it was me.
It just gets me the one who runs down the corridor and goes, yeah, they really are very annoyed at you about the answer kind of thing. And then I stick my head over Daniel's wall and go, so Pure Blood Inquisitors, are they going in? Because every time I go to a show, I have to make sure that we don't have any of them right now. So let me know what the deal is with that.
All right, cool. Obviously, James, you've worked on a lot of the single-player RPGs in BioWare, Baldur's Gate, so far, and Daniel, Dragon Age. I'm not sure what else right now, but what are the, what have been some of the most satisfying and challenging aspects of tackling fourth pillar, the storyline of MMO?
Well, actually, something that's an interesting little tidbit, I guess. I often, when I'm talking with fellow developers, they'll, come up to me and tell me that I'm crazy for working on a game like Star Wars: Old Republic, because how the hell can you make a game with that much story content, that much voiceover, and that just must make the project completely untenable and impossible. But in fact, out of all the aspects of the project, I would have to say that the story element has gone the smoothest. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that we have a lot of experience building story-based games at BioWare. And the fact that the pipeline of taking a script and giving it to a director and getting the parts cast and then the voices recorded, that's a very known process. The biggest challenges on the project have actually been the ones that have been challenging for every online game out there, which is just the technical challenges of creating an engine that can essentially support thousands of players online at the same time and not fall down. And so those are the biggest challenges we have and the ones that we've been solving over this past year.
Well, I had all sorts of challenges with it, because James didn't have to deal with them. There are a lot of things you can't do in an MMO space that you're used to doing when you're writing an RPG. I can't trap you, I can't, the whole scene is always going to happen like, oh, now you're in prison. But I want to raid tonight. Oh, all right, I guess I can't put you in prison. These people are going to destroy this. Yeah, no, I guess we're not going to do that. We really had to rethink the way we did storytelling, and it came out for the best, because what it made us do is it made us do more approaches that made the player want to do the content instead of trying to force them or have the random cutscene where somebody comes, even though you've killed 1,000 people, some random guy hits you in the back of the head and drags you off. It made us be a lot more honest as writers and a lot more forthcoming, and it made us plan a ton. I don't think I've ever seen a level of documentation like what we have to do to communicate to all the different teams, the complexities, what the story is going to do.
Actually, I think, so another area that really helped us out on Star Wars: Old Republic was Neverwinter Nights. Neverwinter Nights was a game that BioWare built many years ago, for those of you familiar with it. And it was also, it was online. But we also had a lot of the same problems, because it was, the conversations there were in an environment that was multiplayer with multiple players. And so we applied a lot of the lessons that we learned from Neverwinter Nights to Star Wars: Old Republic. And actually, another little tidbit is we actually use the Neverwinter Nights engine to prototype a lot of the
whoever did the Star Wars mod conversion for Neverwinter Nights, thank you, that was very useful.
To make things look pretty. We built a lot of the worlds. In fact, Chapter 1, almost a ton of Chapter 1 was actually playable in Neverwinter Nights before it was ever playable in our final engine. So that's why I wasn't worried, Daniel, because that was early on, 2007, a long time ago.
All right, let's get back to the.
Hey guys, you built a lot of stuff. You've developed a lot of stuff for PvE. You also developed a lot of stuff for PvP. What can the role-play community look forward to content-wise? Besides
the largest role-playing game in history.
I have to say that, I understand where you're coming from, and traditionally in MMOs, there are things that developers can do to kind of help the role-playing community along. For me, and this is speaking personally because I'm not a traditional MMO role player, but the thing I find very exciting about the story is that you do get to role-play your choices. In terms of your dark side, light side choices, and the moral choices that you're presented with, and when you play those choices through with a group, you do get that great feeling you get when you're playing tabletop role-playing games. And you're like, I can't believe you just killed our chief contact on this mission. Thank you very much. What do we do? So it feels more like a role-playing game to me than any other MMO I've previously played. Now that's from the single individual player perspective.
Yeah, that's the same thing. I was really surprised when people started opening up their chat windows and having meta conversations during conversations. It really felt like a pen and paper game, like where you're sitting there and discussing what you're going to talk to the NPC about. It feels more like, let's see, I've been on both sides, and I've definitely been, the MMO role player as well. You see, I was the guy, you can tell I'm role playing because I'm walking. Right? I've been that guy.
You do have that.
And the difference is, most of the effort around role playing for us was more of the pen and paper, like, here's how you interact with the story, here's how you actually create group content, and less we're at the Ren Fair, which is sort of what the MMO, right? We dress up, we have some costumes, and we have some emotes that we can sort of make up our own little story. Obviously, if there's a demand for that stuff, there are Damien and I would say, are the big champions of those sorts of things.
Yeah.
They come after, let's put you in your own Star Wars movie.
Yeah. That's stuff, I mean, no one's ignorant of it. We're certainly aware of certain things that we might need to fix.
I remember one of the very first conversations I ever had with the artists when they got their list of armor sets was, why am I making a wedding dress?
So you can do an operation.
Okay, thanks.
Please don't shoot.
I don't promise anything. So I just started getting into MMOs. This is gonna be my first real one. I started going through the races list to see what was available, and one really stood out that it wasn't even in there, and I was wondering if it's gonna be available later. What's the deal with Wookiees?
So one of the things we made in this was, we had to make a decision very early on. So if you've seen the game, it is a fully voiced, interactive.
Come on.
No, they don't understand. Trust me.
Yeah, they really don't. Hundreds of hours where your character is the only one who doesn't talk, and everybody else has to read subtitles for you. And at the end of the day, there is, and I know this has always been the unpopular but true answer for how we approached it. We're not a sandbox game. We're not a game that is, here's all the toys that you had as a kid and just play with them however you want. We are hey, welcome to your Star Wars movie. And there's a reason there has never been a single piece of Star Wars fiction, no book, no comic series, anything, that was led up as the main character by one of the freaky races.
Christmas special.
You excited me pretty cool. Thank you for making my point. For you to really understand everything, you need to have a character you can relate to and you can actually sort of crawl in there. What I've always said is, if we ever did, something where we were going to have a really freaky race, that would be your whole class. That would be your whole story. We would have to give you the entire experience. If we just slapped a Wookiee skin onto your Jedi Knight and then everyone ignored the fact that you were a Wookiee, it sounds fun, but it wouldn't be a big deal.
So how about Christmas costumes?
Life Day. Yeah. Life Day.
Hi, my question is in regard to light side, dark side. In previous BioWare games, it sometimes felt like the game sort of encouraged you to stick to one side or the other because you get those really cool conversation options if you're all renegade or what have you. So I'm wondering, in playing Star Wars: The Old Republic, is there a reward system in place for those of us who want to build a character who's maybe not a Boy Scout, but also maybe not a killer of babies?
Over to you, James.
So the website system, we definitely wanted to, it was an important part of Old Republic, and we wanted to be an important part of the Old Republic, but we wanted to be an important part that doesn't really so much impact your game mechanics or combat. It more impacts kind of the feel of your character. So how your character looks, what he's able to do. We really, in the initial design of Light Side, Dark Side, didn't want to create a system that would basically make it so that if you didn't pick every single Dark Side choice, then your character would be gimped at the end of the game when you were doing, for example,
example, operations. Because that would not be very fun. You're trying to get into an operation, but the guild says, "Are you maxed out on dark side?" And you're like, "Well, no, because I made different choices." Well, screw off. That's the situation we didn't want to have happen. So we've been very careful about the impact that the light side, dark side system has on your character, which is one of the reasons why we didn't go with what we did in the Old Republic, which is have a system that actually impacted all of your abilities. So that's not the case in the Old Republic.
One of the other things too that is keep in mind is very rarely do you see things attached to just talking, right? Because the Sith, for instance, if you're being a light side Sith, it makes no sense to go up to your master and be like, "I love kittens and puppies, and I sure am good." So in the original Knights of the Old Republic, they were tied to lines, and the joke we always had is that I would be like the worst Sith, like the most dark side man in the universe, just for being a snark. So you can pick the conversation options you want. You can be the character you want. You can be a completely dislikable, horrible, smart-ass person and still be totally light side, because your light side, dark side points are going to come when you choose what your actions are going to be.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you guys for all the work that you do for us.